Hey, y'all. Trying to hook up my headset. Hold on. Welcome to the back alleys of YouTube. Uh-oh. Why not? Is this it? Can you hear me? Tell me if you can hear me. Hello. Hi, James. Hi, Seeger's mom. Always be kind. Boy, do I have a lot to talk about today. Yes, I did, James. I have so much to talk about. Okay, good. This is my headset, so hopefully. I've had the top up all day because I didn't know if it was going to rain or not. All right. Hold on. I got to get my map. All right. Are you gelling? Hey, are you gelling? I saw you in that Twitter space last night. It's weird shit. I don't get it. Because I had an appointment via video at 2 o'clock for my PTSD counseling. Yes. Let's talk about PTSD. I'm going to tell you some stories, actually. I'm going to tell stories. It's story time. But when AP was talking about Justin, I was just feeling really bad. And somebody made a comment. I can't remember where I saw this comment, but somebody made a comment like Justin should recognize the symptoms and get help. And if somebody would have said that in front of me, there would have been a whole lot of talking going on. Because let me tell you how this works, okay? The appointment that I got today, I have been working on for over 2 years. Not even more than that. Because I've been seeking specifically PTSD counseling or therapy. And today I had an appointment for intake with a new therapist, and I'm supposed to start the program. So, considering I've been knowingly dealing with PTSD for at least 8-9 years, okay, which means I've been dealing with it before that. I've been in counseling since I was in my 30s. Let me tell you how the VA system works. First of all, oops, I forgot to put my seatbelt on. So like say when my grandpa was in, I don't know, 4 or 5 wars and skirmishes. He clearly had PTSD, but they didn't diagnose PTSD back then. I'm sure, I doubt if he ever got diagnosed. He drank for his symptoms, and him and my grandmother didn't sleep in the same bed together because he fought in his sleep, which makes sense. So, first, people just didn't get diagnosed. We didn't know enough about it. Then, when military vets started getting diagnosed for PTSD, it was only for war-related trauma. Well, now they recognize that there is other related trauma. In fact, PTSD, MST, military sexual trauma. It is a thing. It's its own category. It's its own diagnosis. And what does that tell you about sexual trauma in the military? That it has to have its own category. So anyway, if you think about that, hey baby, hey, I've been dealing with this since I was in my 30s. I started seeking help at the VA when I was in my 40s. I am now in my 60s, and I'm finally getting an appointment specifically for my problem. That's 20 years. 20 years I've been trying to get that appointment. So you want to think that Justin's supposed to recognize for himself when he's having a problem and get immediate help? Most people give up. Most people give up, guys. For one, you have to stay in one place for a long time. And that's why I've been keeping my ass in Virginia. Because in order to get all these appointments that I've been getting, I have to stay here. So first you have to stay in one place. Then let me tell you a story, okay? So I was in, this was pre-convoy, right before the convoy. I was in Bandera, Texas. And I was staying at this little RV park called I think it was the Ponderosa, I'm not sure. But it was terrible. It was horrible. It was a horrible park. But it was winter. It was cold. I just wanted to keep my animals warm and do my research. I was doing genealogy research. So I was grumpy about that anyway because the things I learned weren't pretty, weren't fun. Like, I never found that French trapper and Indian princess that I was looking for. So anyway, my neighbor became a huge problem because he had these 2 aggressive dogs that he wanted to let out of his trailer off leash. So if Miklos was first, he told me he didn't mind if Miklos sat outside. Miklos will sit by the front door and not be a problem. And he said he didn't care. And our doors are like, we're practically touching when we open our front doors. The sites were so small. This guy is drunk every day by noon. He's letting his vicious dogs out in the trailer park without being on leash to put them in his truck while he's drunk to drive down the road to feed his horses. So, if my dog is outside, he wants me to bring my dog inside so he can let his dogs out off leash. Even even though my dog's on a leash, because he's afraid his dogs will attack my dog. But that's my problem. So then it got so that then he started complaining about the dog. He went and complained to the manager. So I went to the manager and I explained to her the ADA, American with Disabilities Act, and the service dog laws. And I told her that as a reasonable accommodation, he wasn't doing anything wrong. He should be allowed to sit quietly outside. And she finally said, okay, fine. Well, after she said, well, what disability do you have, or some bullshit. And I said, I'm not required to tell you that. But maybe you can have understanding. I will. And finally she said, okay, fine, but if he barks, you gotta be right there. So then the neighbor comes out one day, and I'm sitting outside with my dog. Got my dog in my lap. And he wants to let his dogs out, so he wants... So anyway, yeah, let me try to see, can I gloss over some stuff? Anyway, it ends up, I told him to do what he needed to do, and I didn't take the dog in. So then I went, I made a post on Facebook about something about not feeling safe, and the manager's wife called me, and I said, look, and she wanted to talk about it right now. I said, look, it's late, everybody's in bed, I'll talk to you tomorrow morning. By now, you guys, I'm starting to freak out. I'm having a serious full-blown meltdown already by now. And she wants to force me to confront the issue right now with my drunk bully of a neighbor and his drunk vicious dogs. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it until in the morning. So in the morning, I was in my trailer sweeping my floor in my underwear. And keep in mind, I have paid for a month's rent. I paid, already prepaid for an entire month. And I have only been there less than a week. So I'm in my trailer, in my underwear, sweeping my floor, and he comes banging at the door. So of course the dog starts barking, and the dog is out there barking, and he's banging on the door and yelling. And I told him, I will finish sweeping my floor, get dressed, and then I will come to the office and talk to you. You need to come out here right now. Ah! And then he starts yelling, you need to get the dog in there. I said, get away from my door and I will put the dog in. Oh, my goodness. So he finally left. Oh, no, he didn't leave. He said he was calling the sheriff. And I said, please do. Oh, keep in mind, you guys, I got 2 dead batteries. My truck isn't moving. I have 2 dead batteries. So even if I wanted to go somewhere, I couldn't go anywhere. And I had already paid a month's rent. So why should I want to go anywhere? And why should I have to? Anyway, so I got dressed and locked the trailer door and went out and sat on my tailgate waiting for the sheriff. Oh no, the night before, here's another part. The night before, I had such a bad anxiety attack that I ended up calling another veteran friend of mine. And she had to talk me down over the phone. And then I ended up calling the suicide hotline. And let me tell you something, the suicide hotline, they will get you help. They will get a team the team from San Antonio called the next day. But anyway, my friend talked me down, the suicide hotline talked me down. I was able to sleep that night. The next morning, the manager comes over, throws a fit. He's going to call the sheriff. I told him, please do. So I go out and I wait on my truck for the sheriff. And when the sheriff comes, first thing I said was, these people are triggering my PTSD, and you need to get somebody here that is trained in dealing with PTSD and anxiety attacks. And that dude looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Of course he did. So then, anyway, we go back and forth, and he's like, well, why would you want to stay here if you don't like it here anyway? Well, I paid my rent. Well, he says he's going to give it back. Well, he says, so finally I said, okay, I will leave tomorrow. I will leave. And he said, why can't you leave right now? I said, how do you want me to do that? I just told you, I have 2 dead batteries. Dead batteries in what? My truck. And walk to O'Reilly's and exchange them and walk back today. He says, well, we don't even have an O'Reilly's. It's in. I'm like, bingo. Tomorrow I have a friend coming that will take me to O'Reilly's to get my batteries, and then I will pack up and leave. So the sheriff told me, I'm back. That didn't happen. That ended up being a whole nother scene. I did not get my money back. I left the next day as promised. Went down the street. I went through 3 parks before I could find a park that would rent me a spot. By then I was so exhausted. I was so tired. All I wanted to do was sleep and decompress. And the thing is, people will say that too. Well, if you don't like it here, why don't you just leave? Well, I had looked for days to find that park. For one, because a lot of parks won't take my trailer because of either the age or the paint job. And then in certain high peak seasons, they're full. So luckily I found somebody who took pity on me and rented me a spot for a few days to recover. So then I'm talking to San Antonio at the same time, to the mental health department at the VA in San Antonio. So I finally took a couple days, and then I drove to San Antonio, rented a spot there, waited till Monday, called them to make sure they were open and that the mental health department was open. I got to the hospital completely having a breakdown, and they said, and after they jacked me around for about an hour trying to make me fill out stupid paperwork and doing other weird stuff, they told me that mental health wasn't even open because guess what? They got a few snowflakes on the ground in Texas. So nobody came in for mental health. We ended up in the emergency room. But here's the point I want to make is I ended up having a full-blown anxiety attack on the floor in the waiting room of the VA hospital with my service dog doing pressure therapy and doing the job that he's been trained to do. And there were workers and people and nurses and doctors and everybody walking by me, totally ignoring me. I just passed a gun range and I heard the guns. Just walking by me, not doing anything. They did not get me any help. They did not get me any help that day. None at all. And as for defunding the police, this is the kind of shit we're talking about. Do we need a sheriff to come out to a call like that? Do we need a sheriff? No, we need somebody trained to deal with those kinds of, with just disputes, just basic property disputes. Because that wasn't about serve and protect the public. That was about protect the property owner, protect the business owner. And so as far as you telling somebody that they should know the symptoms and they should go get help, it takes years. Do you hear me? It takes years to get help. It takes persistence. It takes being the squeaky wheel And most of these people give up. It takes staying in one place long enough. It takes a lot. So don't be flippant when you try to tell somebody with PTSD to just go get help. There is very limited help.